You know what nobody tells you about rock bottom? It has a basement and a sub-basement, and levels below that you didn't know existed. You think you've hit the lowest point, and then life shows you there's further to fall. But here's the statistical anomaly that'll change everything. The people who make it through multiple rock bottoms don't just survive, they become unbreakable. Not because they're special, because repeated breaking creates something pain can't touch anymore. You're not at your breaking point, you're at your building point. And the difference between those two? It's just perspective. Let me show you what you can't see from where you're standing. You clicked this video because you're exhausted in a way sleep can't fix. This isn't about pushing through or staying positive. That advice has already failed you. This is about understanding why you're tired, not from lack of strength, but from fighting the wrong battle. You've been trying to fix yourself when the real problem is you were never broken. You've been carrying burdens that were never yours to carry. I'm going to show you how to set them down, how to stop confusing exhaustion with failure, and how to rebuild from a place of truth instead of performance. You're not ending, you're excavating. And what you'll find beneath the exhaustion will change everything. Imagine you're hiking with a backpack, 60 pounds, heavy but manageable at first. Mile 1, you're fine, you're strong, you've got this. Mile 5, you're struggling a little bit. Your shoulders are starting to ache, your back is getting tight. But you push through because that's what you do. You don't quit, you don't complain. You just keep walking. Mile 10, every step is agony. Your legs are shaking, your breathing is labored. You're moving slower and slower, and you stop and think, I'm weak. I can't do this. Something's wrong with me. Everyone else seems fine. Why can't I handle this? What's broken inside me that makes something this simple feel impossible? But then someone asks, can I see your pack? And when they open it, they find rocks. Dozens of them. Rocks you didn't pack. Rocks other people put there when you weren't looking. Your mother's expectations of who you should be. Your father's disappointments that you internalized as proof you're not enough. Society's standards that you never questioned. Past failures that you've been carrying like evidence of your unworthiness. Internalized shame from things that weren't even your fault. Trauma you never processed because you were too busy surviving to stop and heal. Responsibilities you never agreed to carry, but somehow ended up shouldering anyway, because no one else would. You've been blaming yourself for struggling under a weight you didn't choose and never questioned. You just kept walking, thinking, if I was stronger, this wouldn't be so hard. If I was better, I could handle this. If I was enough, this wouldn't hurt so much. But here's what changes everything. Strength isn't measured by how much you can carry. It's measured by what you're willing to put down. Most people never look in the pack. They never stop to examine what they're actually carrying. They just accept the weight, adapt to the pain, and call it life. They get slower. They get bitter. They start to believe the struggle is just who they are. And eventually they stop walking altogether. Not because they're weak, not because they gave up, but because they're crushed under weight that was never theirs to begin with. You're tired because you've been hiking with rocks. And the first step to recovery isn't pushing harder, it's unpacking, opening the pack, naming each rock, pulling them out one by one and asking, who put this here? Why am I still carrying it? Is this actually mine? And most importantly, what happens if I leave it behind? Some rocks you'll recognize immediately. Oh, that's shame. That's the voice in my head that says, I'm not good enough. That's guilt from things I did or didn't do 10 years ago that I'm still punishing myself for. That's fear of disappointing people who were never satisfied anyway, who kept moving the goalposts every time I got close. But some rocks are so old, so deeply buried under everything else, you forgot they were even there. You just accepted the weight as normal. You thought everyone carries this much. You thought this is just what life feels like. Here's the truth that'll free you. You don't have to carry what doesn't belong to you. Not your parents' unlived dreams that they projected onto you because they didn't have the courage to pursue them themselves. Not your partner's emotional regulation that they refused to take responsibility for. Not society's definition of success that was designed to keep you chasing something you'll never catch. Not your past self's mistakes that you've already learned from, but keep dragging into your present like a ball and chain. You can set them down, right here, right now. And the moment you do, you'll realize You were never weak. You were just overloaded. You were carrying a burden that would have crushed anyone, and the fact that you made it this far, that's not failure. That's a miracle. But what about the weight you do need to carry? How do you know what's yours and what isn't? That's where this gets even deeper. There's a Japanese art form called kintsugi. When a bowl breaks, instead of throwing it away or hiding the cracks, they repair it with gold. The breaks become the most valuable part. The bowl isn't restored to its original form. It's transformed into something more beautiful because of the breaking. Museums display these bowls. Collectors pay fortunes for them, not in spite of the cracks, but because of them. But here's what most people miss about kintsugi, and this is critical. Before the gold can be applied, the vessel has to accept that it's broken. You can't fill the cracks while you're still pretending they don't exist. You can't heal what you won't acknowledge. You can't repair what you're hiding. And that's what you've been doing, isn't it? You've been trying to glue yourself back together so seamlessly that no one can tell you ever broke. You've been hiding the cracks, performing wholeness, exhausting yourself, maintaining an illusion of being okay when inside you're shattered. And that performance, that constant act of pretending, that's what's actually draining you, not the brokenness itself. The pretending. What if you stopped? What if you looked at the cracks and said, "This is where life broke me. This is where I shattered. This is where I lost myself, where I lost someone I loved, where I lost my sense of purpose, where everything I thought was solid turned out to be fragile." And instead of shame, what if there was just truth? Just acknowledgement. Just, yes, I broke. And I'm still here. I'm still breathing. I'm still standing, even if barely. Even if I'm held together by nothing but stubbornness and the faint hope that tomorrow might hurt a little less than today. Because here's the paradox nobody tells you. You can't become whole by pretending you were never broken. You become whole by integrating the breaks, by looking at every place you shattered and asking, what did this teach me? What did I learn about myself, about life, about what matters and what doesn't? Who did I become because of this pain that I never could have become without it? The strongest people I know aren't the ones who never fell apart. They're the ones who fell apart, looked at the pieces scattered around them and said, okay, now what? Now what do I do with this? How do I take what's left and build something new? They're the ones who stopped performing strength and started building it from truth. They're the ones who said, I don't have to pretend anymore. I don't have to convince anyone I'm okay. I can just be honest. I can just say, I'm not okay, and I'm working on it, and that's enough. You think your brokenness disqualifies you. You think it makes you less than. You think it means you're damaged goods, that you've got too much baggage, that no one wants someone with this many cracks. But what if it's actually your initiation? What if the breaking was necessary to crack you open to a version of yourself you couldn't access when you were whole and defended and perfectly put together? What if the exhaustion you feel isn't failure? It's your old self dying so your real self can finally emerge. Because that's what this is. You're not breaking down, you're breaking through. The version of you that people expected you to be, that's dying. The version that performed and people pleased and said yes when you meant no and smiled when you were screaming inside, that's what's exhausting you because it was never real. And maintaining something fake takes infinitely more energy than just being true. The bowl that never breaks never gets the gold. It's functional, sure. It serves its purpose. It holds water. It does the job. But it's ordinary. It's unremarkable. It's just another bowl. The bowl that breaks and allows itself to be repaired with intention, with honesty, with care. That bowl becomes art. That bowl becomes irreplaceable. That bowl tells a story. And people look at it and see not just a bowl, but resilience. Not just function, but meaning. You're tired because you've been fighting the wrong battle. You've been trying to prove you're not broken when you should have been learning to honor the breaking. You've been treating your cracks like failures when they're actually your foundation for something stronger, something truer, something that can't be broken the same way again because it's already survived the worst. So if brokenness isn't the problem and exhaustion is just misplaced effort, what do we actually do with this truth? Let me break down the lessons that'll change how you see everything. First lesson, exhaustion is data, not identity. You're not a tired person. You're a person who's tired. That distinction matters more than you know. Exhaustion is feedback, not a permanent state. It's your body saying, something's wrong with how we're living. Something about this path, this job, this relationship, this version of yourself. Something isn't working. Listen to it. Don't pathologize it. Don't shame it. Don't treat it like a character flaw. Decode it. Ask, what is my tiredness trying to tell me? And then have the courage to hear the answer. Second lesson, healing isn't linear. It's spiral. You're not going backwards when old pain resurfaces. You're not failing when you cry about something you thought you were over. You're revisiting it from a higher level. Each time you circle back, you have new tools, new perspectives, new strength. The spiral looks like repetition from the outside, but it's actually elevation. You're processing the same wound, but from a place of greater wisdom. Trust the process even when it feels like regression, even when it feels like you're back where you started. You're not. You're just passing the same point on a higher turn of the spiral. Third lesson, strength through subtraction, not addition. You don't need more coping mechanisms, more strategies, more motivation, more willpower, more discipline. You need to subtract. Remove the weight you never needed. Remove the people who drain you without ever filling you back up. Remove the stories you believed about yourself that were never true, that were handed to you by people who didn't even know themselves. Real power comes from letting go, not holding on. From releasing, not grasping. From shedding what doesn't serve you instead of trying to carry it all with a smile on your face. Fourth lesson, brokenness is not damage. It's depth. The parts of you that broke open created space for something deeper, for wisdom you couldn't have gained any other way, for empathy that connects you to other people's pain in ways the unbroken never understand, for truth that you couldn't access when you were busy maintaining appearances. Your cracks aren't flaws, they're entry points to your real self. Stop trying to seal them. Learn to fill them with gold. Learn to honor them as the places where light got in, where life got in, where you finally became real. But how do you actually apply this when you're in the middle of breaking? When you're so tired, you can barely think? Here are the practices. First practice, the inventory ritual. Take 15 minutes and list everything you're carrying, every emotional weight, every mental burden, every responsibility, every expectation. Write it all down, then ask, which of these are actually mine? Which of these did I choose? Which of these am I keeping out of love? And which am I keeping out of fear or guilt or obligation? Circle only what truly belongs to you. Everything else, you have permission to release it. Not someday when you're stronger. Today. Right now. Second practice, the crack mapping exercise. Write down where you broke. Name the moments, the betrayal, the loss, the failure, the trauma. Don't minimize them. Don't compare them to other people's pain and decide yours doesn't count. Then ask, what did this breaking teach me that staying whole never could? What do I know now that I didn't know before? What depth do I have access to because I survived this? Find the lesson in the wound. That's where the gold goes. That's what transforms the break from damage into depth. Third practice, the radical rest protocol. Stop treating rest as something you earn. You don't have to prove you deserve it. You don't have to be productive enough or depleted enough or worthy enough. You need it because you're human. Schedule it. Protect it. Defend it like you'd defend a loved one from harm. Rest isn't laziness. It's maintenance. It's what keeps you functional. You can't pour from an empty vessel, and you've been empty for too long. Fill yourself first. Everything else can wait. Fourth practice, the truth practice. Once a day, tell someone the truth. Not the performed version, not the filtered, acceptable, palatable version, the real one. I'm struggling. I'm scared. I don't know if I can do this. I need help. Start small if you need to. Start with one trusted person, but start, because isolation is what's keeping you stuck. The belief that you have to carry this alone, that admitting struggle is weakness, that asking for help is failure, that's what's crushing you. Connection is what'll save you. Vulnerability is what'll heal you. So here's where we land, and I need you to really hear this because This is the truth that'll either save your life or at least save what's left of it. You are not broken. You are breaking open. There's a massive difference. Broken means finished. Broken means unsalvageable. Broken means throw it away and start over. But breaking open? That means becoming. That means expanding. That means everything you thought was solid is actually cracking apart to make room for something bigger, something truer, something that couldn't fit inside the old container. You're not at your end. You're at your threshold. The exhaustion you feel isn't evidence of weakness. It's evidence that you've been carrying weight you were never designed to carry alone. It's evidence that you've been fighting battles that were never yours. It's evidence that you've been holding yourself together through sheer force of will. And now your will is tired, and that's okay. That's human. That's real. Here's the mantra I want you to carry forward, and I want you to say this with me right now. I am not failing. I am shedding. Say it again. I am not failing. I am shedding. Shedding the weight. Shedding the lies. Shedding the version of myself that was never real, that was constructed to please people who can never be pleased, to meet standards I never agreed to live up to an image that was killing me from the inside out. Because that's what this exhaustion is. It's your soul saying, we can't keep performing. We can't keep pretending. We can't keep living for everyone else. We need to start living for ourselves. We need truth. We need rest. We need release. The rocks in your backpack, you can set them down, one by one. You don't have to carry them another mile. The cracks in your vessel, they're not flaws. They're where the light gets in. They're where the gold goes. They're what makes you irreplaceable. The tiredness you feel, it's not permanent. It's just your body asking for honesty, rest, and release. Asking you to stop fighting and start surrendering. Not surrendering to defeat, surrendering to truth, to what is, to what you actually feel instead of what you think you should feel. You didn't come this far to give up. You came this far to transform. And transformation looks like death before it looks like life. It looks like everything falling apart before it comes back together. It looks like exhaustion and confusion and wondering if you're doing it wrong, but you're not. You're doing it exactly right. Trust the process. Honor the breaking. And know that on the other side of this exhaustion is a version of you that's lighter, truer, and unbreakable. Not because you can't be broken again, but because you've learned that breaking isn't the end. It's just the beginning of becoming. If this reached you, if something inside you exhaled while you were listening, hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me what rock you're ready to put down today. What weight are you finally willing to release? And subscribe to this channel because we're healing together, not alone. We're breaking open together. We're learning to fill our cracks with gold together. You're not ending, you're beginning. Keep going. The next version of you is waiting on the other side of this exhaustion, and it's worth every painful step it takes to get there.